Woman Things, the podcast, a show dedicated to women who want to connect with their bodies and optimize their health for a more holistic and balanced life. We are your hosts and women's health experts, Cara Moore and Kirsten Humphreys, and we will be taking you on a journey of education and empowerment.
Stay tuned each week while we break down all the hottest topics in women's health today, including food and nutrition, periods, gut and skin health, fertility, and everything in between. You can find us on Instagram at WomanThings, that's woman, WOMXN, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform to keep up to date with all the latest episode releases. We hope you enjoy the episode today, and thanks so much for tuning in.
This podcast is sponsored by London Nootropics and A Little Find. London Nootropics are a London-based company that makes a blend of high-quality coffee with nootropic and adaptogenic tonics that help to balance the body and boost brain function. We love these coffee blends. Our personal favorite is the Grind Blend, which has a mixture of lion's mane mushroom and rhodiola that helps boost mental clarity and focus and improves overall motivation. If you love a morning cup of coffee, why not try some of these amazing blends for yourself? You can find them at londonnootropics.com or on Instagram at london.nootropics. And A Little Find are an online department store where you can discover innovative, aesthetic, and conscious brands on one single platform for all ages across all categories. We love A Little Find as it shines a spotlight on brands who have a particular focus on being eco-friendly, low-waste, and sustainable. It was from being asked, just where did you find that, many times that the idea for A Little Find was born. You can find them at alittle.find.com or on Instagram at A Little Find.
Hi, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Woman Things, the podcast. Today we are joined by another special guest to introduce to us the importance of honoring and connecting with our womb space and femininity as a woman. A disconnect from our natural femininity can cause us to feel imbalanced, uninspired, and burnt out, but so much more, which we will be discussing today. So before we get started, here are some quick introductions so you can get to know us a little bit better. My name is Cara, and I'm a clinical nutritionist and fertility awareness educator. In my online clinic, I work with people that are struggling with problematic periods and hormonal concerns. I help women who are struggling with their fertility conceive naturally and provide nutritional support through the journey of pregnancy and into early motherhood. I also coach the fertility awareness method, so I teach natural contraception to women and those who want to get more in tune with their fertility and their menstrual cycle. You can find me on Instagram at fempowered_health or on my website, www.fempoweredhealth.com. And today, as always, I'm here with my good friend, Kirsten.
Hi, Cara. Thank you for that lovely introduction. So my name is Kirsten Humphreys, and I'm a registered nutritional therapist and certified health and wellness coach and NLP practitioner. I specialize in women's health, and in particular, I work with women one-on-one online who are struggling with issues revolving around their skin, gut, period, and any hormonal concerns, as well as helping each woman to make the necessary mindset shifts to foster effective, fulfilling, and lifelong changes. I am passionate about educating women on how to live healthier and happier lives and helping people to develop the tools to gain control over their own health and mental well-being. So you can find me on Instagram at Kickstart with Kirsten, that's kickstart_with_Kirsten, or online at knhwellness.co.uk, or you can use .com as well. So today we're joined by the lovely Rebecca Wilson. Rebecca is the founder of Womb Connection Healing Awakening, which has been birthed from her personal journey of womb awakening. Rebecca facilitates shamanic womb healing and rites blessings and is a womb healer, womb keeper, spirit baby, and birth doula. So welcome, Rebecca.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Let's start off. Can you please explain to us what the work is you do with women?
Yeah, so I support women on a journey of connecting to their womb space, healing their womb, their feminine energy, and then through that journey, awakening to their full embodied expression of their feminine. That may look like working with inner seasons and cycles, or fertility, or working to support women to clear and heal trauma from the womb space, grief, pregnancy loss, miscarriage, and then through that welcoming in conception, or it may be for some women welcoming in and awakening the creativity for them to create and birth their visions and their projects in the world. all from a healed, balanced womb energy.
That sounds beautiful and like such important work. For our listeners at home that aren't really familiar with the term like femininity and feminine energy, can you explain to us a little bit about what that entails?
Yeah, of course. So really the feminine is the expression of everything. The feminine is energy, the feminine is emotion, the feminine is movement. So when we work on our own feminine energy, we can work with this whether we're a man or a woman, man, or however we identify, because all beings have feminine energy within them. But I specialize in working with women to reclaim this lost part of themselves, ourselves, our world, the conditioning, the structures that we have been living in for such a long time have over supported and praised a very wounded masculine dominant energy of linear expectation, striving, pushing, doing more. So when we take a journey back into reclaiming our feminine energy, we're really coming into a cyclical way of living, the state of flow, creativity, very much in tune with nature, seasons, cycles, ebbs, flows, in, out, up, down. And so we come into the body and into that to remember really that we are an expression of nature. The feminine part of all of us is that. We just seem to have forgotten or been conditioned out of it for a very long time. And so that's how the work manifests in supporting an arrival back into flow, creativity, emotion, felt sensation, the experience of change, really. It's really about being comfortable with the ebbs and flows and the change that life brings. And we see that so strongly in the reflection of nature.
Yeah, and in comparison, we have our masculine energy, which is the opposite to the feminine, which is what you're describing is more our modern day living. It's very on the go, multitasking all the time, very goal orientated and driven. So it's one of the ways where we can lose connection with that femininity. But are there any other examples that you can give us of how women might become disconnected to that flow of energy in their womb space?
Yeah. Well, first of all, to speak to the masculine energy that we've been living in as a culture and a collective is the toxic, wounded masculine energy. It's not the divine, healed aspect of the masculine. There is definitely a place in all beings, however we identify, for our own masculine and feminine energy within ourselves. And that's really crucial to weave into this and many other conversations like this, which sometimes I feel is potentially missing within this conversation. It's like, the wounded or the masculine energy, I want to be more in my feminine. And really my work is about bringing us into whole beings. But we've been living in this wounded system of the wounded toxic masculine, but the divine or the healed masculine is like rooted, grounded, it's structure, it's container, it is drive and focus where it's needed. And that supports the feminine part of ourselves to flow and ebb and create, because we're held and contained by that strong, solid, mountain-like energy. It's like the masculine in us all is the mountain, the feminine in us all is the ocean. But how we have become as women or with womb spaces, beings with wombs, we have become really disconnected through this toxic, linear, goal-orientated, overachieving energy that's been woven into the tapestry of the collective culture, society. And this can show up in so many different ways. It can happen through trauma, through disassociation. It can happen through really living from the mind rather than the body is one of the really strong ways that this manifests. But again, if women have experienced any kind of trauma to do with their sexuality, or they're carrying any shame, or they've had, say, their experience of their first bleed was not held in the reverence as the rite of passage in what it is, there's going to be some kind of like shame or dirtiness, or inherently a disconnect from the feminine can start as early as there, because we transition from girl to woman and we become out of our non-fertile into our fertile years. And if that isn't held as a sacred rite of passage and given the space and the education that's needed to empower that great change that we all go through as young girls into becoming women, it gets lost and distorted along the way. And whatever that experience was of us coming into our womanhood is the imprint in which we carry around our feminine energy, around our fertile energy, around our creative energy. So as early as some women, maybe 9, 10, are starting their menstruation, and that can really start the journey there. If it's not already been carried down through their mother line, through their womb line, their ancestral line, we can see in the family patterning and family system, mum, grandma, and so on, maybe all carried certain energetics or certain patterns, and that gets carried down through the generational lineage too. So yeah, there's quite a lot there. It's a big topic to speak to.
I really like how you explained that. I found myself like really nodding to everything you were saying. It's so important to share. And it is important to know that, yeah, we do have sort of masculine and feminine sides, and it's like having a balance of both is fine and normal, and just the masculine, as you said, is just kind of overtaking in the really fast-paced lifestyle that we're living now. And it's nice to have you on to kind of share about feminine energy and how we can reconnect with it and some of the benefits of it. But first, can you explain to us like what brought you into this work in the first place?
Yeah. So my kind of opening door into this journey was being on the contraceptive pill for a really long time, having this like moment of, I guess, awakening or a clarity that just dropped in, like, you should come off the pill now. And I thought, okay. I always had quite a strong sense of that voice inside of myself from a young age. So I just followed it. And it really led me down a massive journey of coming off the contraception, not bleeding for nearly 2 years, having really disruptions with my hormones, skin, having acne, weight fluctuations, feeling depressed, anxious. So that was the opening door for me, as far as like, oh wow, I have more than one part of my cycle. In fact, I have a whole cycle that I didn't even really know about, and all these different fluctuations and seasons and parts of my inner rhythms that I just hadn't had enough education on at all. So that was the doorway in. And yeah, for anyone that's sat with me in space or in circle, or, you know, women will speak to that, it's like there's a door in, and then it's just like layer after layer after layer after layer. And we just keep on finding new spaces within us. So that journey came more about realizing how much trauma I was storing within my body and within my womb and within my energy, really. Like my energy was not flowing freely because of the different imprints and traumas and just information that I'd gathered along the way through life and, you know, stored within myself, which we all do all day, every day. There's so much information coming at us, and it gets stored. Mm-hmm. So, and I found that I was really storing it in like my womb and in my feminine energy, like sexual energy, life force energy, prana, chi, however we speak to it. It is the energy of life that moves through us. And that really does start in the root and the sacral area, which is the womb. So freeing that up is so powerful for living a life of creativity and flow.
Mm-hmm, definitely. What are some of the benefits that you've noticed since you've started living more in tune with yourself and in this, just connecting more to your womb and all that?
Oh, wow. Living more embodied, living more whole, able to make clear decisions, grounded, rooted, present with my family and loved ones and friends. Profound amounts of creative energy that moves through, clearer energy system, no aches, less pains, just freedom and liberation within the body, just feeling like space is within. Yeah.
That sounds really amazing. And I'm sure something that a lot of women are craving to have more of in their lives as well. So can you explain a little bit how you help women achieve this within themselves to get back in touch with their femininity?
So we work with lots of different modalities to really support the journey from all different ways. So we work through meditation, through inner journeying with shamanic journeying. I work with sound. I tone and channel and sing through my voice. We also work with embodiment and movement practices. We work with natural primal sounding practices. And then depending on how the journey unfolds, if we're on retreat, then we'll do practices with like working with creativity, being out in nature, free movement, non-linear movement, arts, crafts, just everything that's fun and amazing.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Kirsten and I have promised ourselves that once COVID is over, that we want to join on to one of your retreats.
Yeah, it'd be so nice to have you both.
I told Cara, because I did actually attend one of your circles once, and I told Cara about it, and so we were really keen. We were looking at your website, and yeah, they just look so nice to join with other women and do all these lovely ceremonies that you do. And it's, yeah, here's to hoping COVID ends soon and we can join in.
Yeah, there's just something so powerful about gathering with women also. You know, the practices and all of that are just, I was like the tools in the toolbox, and I give them to you all, everyone who attends, and they get to take them home and integrate them into their lives and into their practices. But there's something really powerful and healing about sitting in circle with women, or just sharing a weekend or a week, hearing each other's stories, listening, sharing, opening, feeling safe in your vulnerability. And that is so, so healing on so many levels. You know, the sister wound, the feminine wound, opening to that closeness that happens when, you know, what did they say? When women gather, magic happens. So, and it's true.
Yeah, it's so, so true. Just because you mentioned it before, I just wanted to ask to clarify to our audience, what exactly is ancestral trauma and how does somebody go about working to release that?
So ancestral trauma, so a trauma that's been passed down through the ancestral lineage. So this could be that a mother or a grandmother or a great-grandmother or so on in the family line, in the lineage, maybe experienced some trauma. Maybe, for example, they experienced sexual trauma, just as an example, that lives within that woman's body, that energetic, emotional, physical, mental, spiritual imprint of the trauma. And when that isn't worked through and cleared and healed, and she has a child, it passes down through, you know, the genetics and the cells and the body and into that child, and then so on, and then so on, and then so on. There can also be like gestational trauma as well. So if anyone was being carried in their mother's womb and their mother experienced a trauma whilst they were pregnant, a loss of a loved one or an impact trauma of some kind, then there can be a trauma imprint on the fetus growing in the mother and like a gestational or womb time trauma. We also imprinted with all of the different belief systems, patterns of behavior, family systems in which both of our parents carry. It gets passed down to us, but even more deeply, how our mother felt at the time of being pregnant with us, conceiving us, birthing us. Thankfully, now the birthing space has got so much more educated and so much more gentle. That wasn't always the way. You know, birth was quite horrific for not so many generations ago. So how we were born affects us. You know, what the womb that we grew in, how our mother felt about, did she feel safe when she was giving birth to us? And if not, then that is passed down. And that feeling of lack of safety, or I'm not safe to be here on earth, can really be in the cells and imprinted in the nervous system. So it is really deep. And we work with that through accessing those emotions and those experiences and I work with timeline energy. So we go back into different points in time and clear the energy, which is usually a frozen part of us, and then integrate it back into the now point. And that helps to clear and release from the body the frozen memory or emotion that has been stored there.
That's so interesting how you were speaking about how the effect of the mum or the emotions that the mum's going through in the womb can be passed down into child and to us. I was looking at some research not too long ago about, which I guess is quite similar, but from like a different perspective, how if when you were in the womb, you were in contact with high amounts of stress hormones from your mom, so she's going through something emotional, something physical, something mentally stressful, that can actually turn on and upregulate your stress response as an adult. And it's something that you have no control over. Can also have like other effects on like your long-term health and chronic health conditions and things like that as well. So it's so interesting.
Yeah. It lives in the cells, because we are literally like dividing cells at one point. And then, I mean, always, but, and then as we are born, we have our first imprint of our nervous system as we are born. So it's like whatever that experience is, it's imprinted, landed, deeply woven into the nervous system of our tiny, teeny tiny little bodies. And then we live from that space because we are living from our body. And so, yeah, it's totally there. And, science is really backing up things that we've known more spiritually and esoterically for such a long time. I do have a journey that I support women on, a rebirth. So we go all the way back into their point of their conception and heal their conception, their gestation, their birth, even the placenta release, and how that was done for such a long time in a very violent way, which can lead to wounds of separation anxiety or disconnect, or not having enough skin to skin at birth. So all of these things I support and work through. Yeah.
So Rebecca, did you want to kind of explain to us how this has led you to working as a spirit baby doula and what that sort of entails?
Yeah. So this is one of the spaces of my work that's just, it's all so beautiful and rewarding. But this area that I work with women in, supporting them to connect to their bodies, to their wombs on the path of conception. And I open up like psychic channels of connection and connect to the spirits of the babies that want to come through, and guide and support women to connect to the spirit of their baby. And when it's time, I can work with bringing the baby, the spirit, down into the mother's womb for conception. And that just really began as part of this journey of my own awakening. Deeper and deeper, I went into all of the layers, and then this profound spiritual psychic opening happened, where I started to dream about these babies, and then they would come to me in meditations, and I would see women with like a baby or an orb in their field and be like, oh, are you trying to get pregnant? And they'd be like, yeah. And I was like, oh, there's a baby with you. And yeah, so that's how it all really began. And it's just so beautiful. I work with women on any kind of journey of conception, whether it be through surrogacy, whether it's through IVF, IUI, whether it's through natural conception, all the different ways. It's really about creating this really beautiful environment in the woman's body, her heart, her womb, open, safe, the energy flowing, and that brings in the conception to a more welcoming environment.
And you've also just wrote a book on this topic, is that right?
So my book, The Return to the Mother, is a book of poems and transmissions from the Great Mother's womb. So when I sit in meditation and in prayer, I receive passages or words or poems or transmissions of healing. And so all of this is about returning to the mother energy. So not just exclusive of birthing mothers for life, for babies, but just the mother energy itself. So the Great Mother, the Mother Earth, our Divine Mother, just returning and restoring the mother energy in us all, which is needed for the healing of the world. Yeah, for us to mature, for the feminine to mature out of the wounded maiden and into the healed mother.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a quote, but empowered and educated women will change the world. And it's so true.
Yeah.
So where can our listeners find you, Rebecca, if they're looking to work with you or see what all of your work is about?
So you can find me on my Instagram page, which is at Rebecca_Wilson_. And I also have my website, which you can find all of my offerings there.
Lovely. Thank you very much for sharing all your knowledge and wisdom with us today. It's been a really special episode. Just before we end here, we have sort of a secret question that we ask all our guests when they come on. And there's 3 of them. So they are, how old were you when you experienced your first period? How was your experience? And what is your relationship with your period like now?
So I remember being about 13, 14 when I got my first bleed. And I remember I was meant to be going to a dance class because I danced when I was younger. And my mum said, oh, you won't go to dancing tonight. I'll run you a bath. So she ran me a bath, got in the bath, and then I heard her on the landing call my dance teacher and say, Rebecca won't be coming to class tonight because she got her first period. And that's the memory, the strongest memory that I have around that. And then I remember my dad coming home from work and my mum saying, Rebecca got her first period today. And he just said, okay. But actually, like, a very supportive first bleed and monarch for me, as far as what many women's experiences are. My dad was very supportive at buying us sanitary products, myself and my sister. I've always been quite open about talking about things. So yeah, maybe he was just used to that from an early age. So things were always spoken about in our household. And my relationship with my cycle now is deeply, well, it's woven into the tapestry of my life. So yeah, I work from the creative cycle of life, death, which is for me what the cycle represents. Creation comes, we have an opportunity to create, and then we let go, and then parts of us are released, and then we come into a new cycle where creation comes again. And whether we see that as a cycle of fertility on conceiving a life, or whether we see it as creating our own projects and our own visions and our, podcasts and courses and writing blog posts and whatever it is that we do. Yeah, so it's a very profound part of my life and how I live from that cyclical nature. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that story. So that's all for us today. And once again, thank you, Rebecca. And until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our show today. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you subscribe, let us know what you thought in the comments, and share it with all the important women in your life. There are plenty more of these episodes to come, so please visit our website to stay in the know. You will find us at womanthings.com. That's WOMXN. Much love, Kirsten and Cara.
The information contained in this podcast is not intended to treat, diagnose, or replace the advice of your healthcare practitioner. Always consult with a qualified health professional if you have a pre-existing health condition or are currently taking any medications before making any changes to your diet or lifestyle.